This is an Indian legend of George Washington's divine protection during the French and Indian War. In the French and Indian War, 1,400 British troops marched over the Appalachian Mountains to seize French Fort Duquesne, near present-day Pittsburgh. Colonel George Washington, then 23, took the rear of General Edward Braddock's army, mostly because he considered American soldiers inferior. The problem was that the European style of warfare was to march into a clearing facing an opponent who did the same, stop, load, and fire, never breaking rank. The British, in bright red uniforms, made perfect targets. Hiding behind trees and rocks was considered cowardly. Both Indians and Americans considered this style of warfare suicidal, but Washington, who had warned the general of this, had to obey orders. On July 9th, 1755, the Battle of Monongahela began when Maddox passed through a ravine, and an army half his size, hiding behind boulders and trees, annihilated him. Officers were mounted targets. Washington rode back and forth on a line through a hail of musket balls, delivering Braddock's orders as he was the only officer still on horseback. He could not take command until the wounded Braddock was carried from the field. Unfortunately, the 2-hour ambush left 976 casualties before Washington could save what was left. A British soldier recorded, "I expected every moment to see him fall. Nothing but the superintending care of Providence could have saved him." Surrounded by slaughter, the British regulars broke and ran as sheep pursued by dogs, Washington later wrote. His Virginia militia continued to die attempting to aid the fleeing British. The pursuing Indians were slowed only by their thirst for battlefield scalps and booty. Of his approximately 100 volunteers, there is scarce 30 men left alive. Washington was angry. The dastardly behavior of those they called regulars exposed all the others that were inclined to do their duty to almost certain death. When safely at Fort Cumberland, Washington wrote his younger brother John Augustine Washington, "By the all-power dispensation of Providence, I have been protected beyond all human possibility or expectation, for I had 4 bullets through my coat, and 2 horses shot under me, yet escaped unhurt, although death was leveling my companions on every side of me." Washington wrote the same to his mother, Mary Ball Washington. 15 years later, Washington and Dr. Craik, a personal physician and close friend, were traveling through those same woods near the Ohio River and Great Kanawha River. They were met by an old Indian chief who addressed Washington through an interpreter with the following story. "I am a chief and ruler over my tribes. My influence extends to the waters of the Great Lakes and to the far blue mountains. I have traveled a long and weary path that I might see the young warrior of the great battle. It was on the day when the white man's blood mixed with the streams of the forest, and I first beheld this chief. I called to my young men and said, 'Mark yon tall and daring warrior. He is not of the Redcoat tribe. He hath an Indian's wisdom, and his warriors fight as we do, himself alone exposed. Quick, let your aim be certain, and he dies.' Our rifles were leveled, rifles which, but for you, knew not how to miss. 'Twas all in vain. A power mightier far than we shielded you." One warrior declared, "I had 17 fair shot fires at him with my rifle, and after all could not bring him to the ground. Seeing you were under the special guardianship of the Great Spirit, we immediately ceased to fire at you." Then his prophecy, "I am old, and soon shall be gathered to the great council fire of my fathers in the land of shades. But ere I go, there is something bids me speak in the voice of prophecy. Listen, the Great Spirit protects that man and guides his destinies. He will become the chief of nations, and a people yet unborn will hail him as the founder of a mighty empire. I am come to pay homage to the man who is the particular favorite of heaven, and who can never die in battle."